Ancient myths still shape our stories, from books to blockbuster movies. We usually assume that if history labels something as a myth, it's nothing more than fiction. But what if that's not always true? While some believe every legend has a shred of reality behind it, few dig deep enough to find proof. Yet, every so often, real evidence emerges, turning old tales into historical facts. From lost cities to mythical creatures, here are 15 ancient myths that weren't just fantasy, they were real. Number 15. The Golden Fleece. Greek mythology tells us that Jason and the Argonauts sailed to Colchis, modern-day Georgia, to retrieve the legendary Golden Fleece, a shimmering symbol of power and kingship. Sounds like a pure myth, right? Maybe not. In the mountains of Svalinn, Georgia, gold flows naturally downriver, and for thousands of years, locals have used sheepskins to catch gold flakes. By placing a fleece in the water, gold particles get trapped in the wool. Once dried, the fleece glistens with real gold, looking every bit as magical as the one Jason sought. Ancient Greek travelers may have witnessed this technique and brought the story back home, transforming a real gold hunting method into an epic quest. While Jason's adventure remains fantasy, the Golden Fleece itself may have been inspired by an actual practice, one that continues to this day. Sometimes myths aren't entirely made up, they're just history with a little extra flair. Number 14. Atlantis. Atlantis is the ultimate lost city myth, an advanced civilization swallowed by the sea. But while Atlantis itself remains unproven, history is full of real cities that suffered similar fates. Take Hittite, Greece, an ancient city submerged by an earthquake and tsunami in 373 BCE. Once a thriving hub, it was completely wiped off the map. Then there's Santorini, where a massive volcanic eruption obliterated a Minoan settlement, leaving behind nothing but ruins. Could these disasters have inspired Plato's story of Atlantis? It's possible. Ancient civilizations were more connected than we often assume, and stories of lost cities could have traveled across the Mediterranean, evolving into the legend we know today. While Atlantis itself may never be found, the idea that powerful cities can vanish overnight isn't fantasy. It's a historical reality. The ocean has swallowed many civilizations before us, and it will likely do so again pretty soon. Number 13. The Kraken. For centuries, sailors returned from the sea with terrifying stories of monstrous tentacled creatures dragging ships to the depths. While there are a lot, the most infamous of them all is the Kraken. Most dismissed these tales as wild exaggerations, but then science proved otherwise. Giant squids are very real, and they're terrifying in their own right, growing up to 43 feet long, armed with powerful tentacles lined with razor-sharp hooks. Dead ones have washed up on beaches for centuries, but no one had ever seen one alive in its natural habitat. That finally changed in 2004, when the first live giant squid was photographed in the wild, proving that something enormous and mysterious had always lurked beneath the waves. While the Kraken won't be sinking ships anytime soon, sailors weren't entirely wrong to fear what might be lurking in the deep. It turns out sometimes the scariest legends have a basis in reality. Number 12. Poukai. In Maori mythology, the Poukai was a monstrous bird of prey, said to be large enough to carry off humans. It sounds like a terrifying folktale, but what if it wasn't? What if it was rooted in reality? Before humans arrived, New Zealand was home to Haast's eagle, an enormous apex predator with an 8-foot wingspan and razor-sharp talons. Unlike modern eagles, which typically hunt small mammals, Haast's eagle preyed on the moa, a flightless bird nearly 12 feet tall and weighing up to 550 pounds. Could it have attacked humans? Easily. If it could take down a moa, a small child wouldn't have stood a chance. But when the Maori arrived, They hunted moa to extinction, and without their primary food source, Haast's eagle disappeared too. The memory of a terrifying human-hunting bird lived on, passed down through generations. The Poukai may not have been mythical at all, just a legend born from a predator that once ruled the skies. Number 11. Viking weapons strengthened by the dead. The Vikings believed their ancestors' spirits gave them strength in battle. Their legends spoke of weapons infused with power, bound to the warriors who wielded them. As it turns out, they may have been right, just not in the way they imagined. Archaeologists have found evidence that Iron Age Scandinavian blacksmiths mixed human bone ash into their iron, unknowingly creating a rudimentary form of steel. The carbon from the bones actually strengthened the metal, making Viking swords and axes harder, sharper, and more durable than ordinary iron weapons. To the Vikings, it was magic, the spirits of the dead literally strengthening their blades. In reality, it was an early form of metallurgical science, centuries before people fully understood how carbon improves iron. They may not have known the chemistry, but they discovered a process that made their weapons superior, a perfect blend of myth and reality. All right, now, let's talk about number 10, Amazon warriors. For centuries, the Amazons were seen as nothing more than a Greek myth. Fearless warrior women who lived without men, battling alongside or against legendary heroes. The idea was entertaining but absurd, or so we thought. Turns out these warrior women were real. In 2020, archaeologists unearthed a grave in Russia containing 4 female warriors buried with their weapons. They ranged from a young girl to an experienced fighter in her 50s, proving that warrior life wasn't just for men. These women were part of the Scythians, fierce nomadic tribes that roamed from the Black Sea to Mongolia. Historians long assumed the Amazons were either Persian warriors exaggerated into legend, or just a storytelling device to make Greek soldiers seem more heroic. But the evidence says otherwise. These women weren't just imaginary warriors, they were real, battle-hardened fighters. And honestly, they probably could have taken on half of ancient Greece. Number 9. St. Francis of Assisi's bread sack. A bag of bread delivered by an angel. Sounds like the kind of story only monks would believe, right? Well, welcome to the Friary of Feloni in Italy, where a 700-year-old legend claims that in 1224, St. Francis of Assisi sent a sack of bread from France, carried by divine hands. The friars kept what was left of the bag as a sacred relic. For centuries, skeptics rolled their eyes. But then researchers got their hands on the remains. Carbon dating confirmed the cloth was from the early 1200s, right on schedule. Even weirder, traces of ergosterol, a compound found in bread mold, were detected, proving the sack once held bread. Can science confirm the angelic FedEx delivery? Nope. But the timing and evidence line up eerily well. Whether miracle or well-timed care package, one thing's certain. This ancient sack isn't just church folklore. Number 8. The 7 Pagodas of Mahabalipuram. For centuries, locals in Mahabalipuram, India, spoke of a legendary city swallowed by the sea. According to myth, the gods, jealous of its beauty, sent a massive flood to drown everything, except one temple that still stands today. Most historians dismissed it as poetic storytelling. Then, in 2004, nature had other plans. When a massive tsunami struck the Indian Ocean, the receding waters briefly exposed something shocking: ancient stone structures, long hidden beneath the waves. Archaeologists rushed in and confirmed the ruins dated back to the 7th century. Among the finds, a massive stone lion that had been submerged for over 1,000 years. Before this, many assumed the lost city was just a legend, but the ocean had been keeping secrets. Whether it was once a grand temple complex or a thriving port, the truth is clear. This wasn't just a story. The city was real, and it had been hiding in plain sight. Number 7. The Hittites. The Hittites were once one of the most powerful civilizations in the ancient Middle East, often mentioned in the Old Testament. They were known for their advanced military strategies, sprawling empire, and progressive legal system, far ahead of their time. Their kingdom stretched over 600 miles from the Black Sea to Damascus, commanding power and influence for centuries. Yet, by the 19th century, they had all but vanished from history. With no known records outside of the Bible, scholars dismissed them as a myth, a fictional enemy invented for dramatic storytelling. If they had been so powerful, where was the evidence? That changed in 1812 when explorer Johann Ludwig Burckhardt stumbled upon strange writings in Syria, unlike anything he had seen before. The script didn't match any known hieroglyphs, but it hinted at something lost to time. Over the next few decades, more discoveries followed, leading to the realization that these ruins were, in fact, the lost kingdom of the Hittites. By 1880, archaeologists confirmed the truth. The Hittites were very real, and their empire had simply been swallowed by history. Number 6. Star over Korea. In 1437, Korean astronomers noticed something strange. A brilliant new star had suddenly appeared in the night sky. It shone brightly for 2 weeks, then disappeared as mysteriously as it had come. Some saw it as a divine omen, while others believed they were witnessing the birth of a new star. It took nearly 6 centuries to find the real answer. In 2017, modern astronomers identified the event as a classical nova, an explosion caused by a white dwarf stealing mass from a nearby star. When enough material accumulates, it ignites in a thermonuclear explosion, creating a temporary but dazzling new star. The event took place in the constellation of Scorpius, and while it wasn't a star being born, it was just as awe-inspiring, a cosmic reminder that even centuries ago, people were looking up at the sky, searching for answers, just as we do today. Number 5. Svalinn. Ancient myths often tried to explain the unexplainable. Like thunder? That was Thor's hammer smashing the sky. Rainbows? Well, it's a bridge to Asgard. But one Norse myth may have been shockingly ahead of its time, the legend of Svalinn. As described in the poem Grimnismal, Svalinn is a mystical shield that stands between the sun and the earth, protecting the world from being burned. Sounds poetic, but also eerily similar to something real, the ozone layer. The ozone layer absorbs harmful UV radiation, keeping Earth from becoming a scorched wasteland. The Vikings obviously didn't know about atmospheric science, but they clearly understood that something unseen protected the world from the sun's full force. Whether it was an incredible coincidence or an early scientific observation wrapped in mythology, Svalinn is a prime example of how ancient myths sometimes hint at real-world truths. All right, guys, now let's head over to number 4, Orichalcum. Atlantis may be a legend, but what about its mythical metal, Orichalcum? Said to be as valuable as gold, Orichalcum was described by Plato as one of the treasures of Atlantis. For centuries, people dismissed it as pure fantasy, until a 2,600-year-old shipwreck off the coast of Sicily turned up something interesting. Divers discovered 39 ingots of an unknown metal, later identified as an ancient form of brass, an alloy of copper and zinc, which perfectly matches ancient descriptions of Orichalcum. It wasn't mined like gold or silver, but it had a shimmering golden appearance and was considered highly valuable in antiquity. While it doesn't prove Atlantis existed, it confirms that Orichalcum was real. The idea of a legendary lost metal wasn't just a storyteller's embellishment, it was based on a rare and highly prized material from the ancient world. What do you think about it? Well, drop your wild theories in the comment below. Number 3. Viking sunstones. Among the many wild Viking legends, One of the most fascinating is their so-called sunstone, a magical crystal that supposedly helped them navigate even when the sun was hidden. No compass, no maps, just a rock that could reveal the sun's position on even the cloudiest days. Sounds like a pure myth, right? Well, maybe not. In 2013, a crystal was found in a 16th century British shipwreck. Not Viking, but significant. The crystal, known as Icelandic spar, has a unique ability to refract light, creating a clear image when aligned correctly. Even in low light, it can detect the sun's position, meaning it could absolutely work as a navigation tool. This discovery gives serious weight to the Viking sunstone legend. While no confirmed Viking sunstone has been found yet, science backs up the possibility that these legendary seafarers really did have their own version of a GPS, just way cooler. Number 2. Troy. For centuries, Troy was thought to be a pure legend, nothing more than a setting for epic Greek tales. The war, the siege, the infamous Trojan horse, all dismissed as mythological fiction. But in the 19th century, that changed forever. In 1870, German archaeologist Heinrich Schliemann uncovered ruins in Hisarlik, Turkey, that matched Homer's descriptions of Troy's location. Excavations revealed 9 layers of cities, built and rebuilt over centuries, showing that the site had been continuously inhabited and frequently destroyed, just as described in ancient texts. While we may never know if the Trojan War really happened, we now know Troy was real. The city existed, and it was important enough to inspire legends. The search for truth continues, and who knows, maybe one day we'll even uncover a real Trojan horse hidden beneath the ruins. Number 1. Milky Seas. For centuries, sailors spoke of an eerie phenomenon, the ocean glowing like milk. Some said it was white, foamy clouds spreading across the sea. Others said it looked like a vast, snow-covered landscape stretching beyond the horizon. Many dismissed these tales as superstition, until science finally caught up. In 1985, researchers finally verified the truth. Bioluminescent bacteria were the cause. These microorganisms, billions strong, emit a faint glow when disturbed, creating an eerie, ghostly illumination across the water. Unlike typical bioluminescence, which flashes and flickers, Milky Seas glow steadily for hours or even days. Still, Milky Seas remain one of the rarest documented oceanic phenomena. So rare that they've only been photographed a handful of times from space. A myth no longer, but still one of the most mysterious natural light shows on Earth. Well, we really hope you have enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.